It feels like each episode of Industry just keeps getting better, in my opinion. Maybe it's because I'm that big of a fan of the show, but the whole situation with Eric right now was completely unexpected for me because to see him basically at the top of Pierpoint and betraying Bill that way, that was completely very, very odd and very weird because I thought he was going to be loyal to Bill, given that Bill tells him, I have cancer and I'm trying to basically save this company at the same time. I'm going to get you with me at the top of this company if you maintain loyalty to me. To the point where he brings Eric up to the meeting, and Eric isn't somebody of a big position when it comes to the company. He's basically just a trader compared to these people right here in the meeting. And he's up there, and Eric, the strategy of a trader in his mind, that's why he even says on the bathroom, I just try to check if the trade works or not, as he's trying to review the paperwork for Bill's idea of getting capital injections from Mitsubishi to Pierpoint, since Pierpoint is going bankrupt in basically a couple hours. So if you haven't seen the show, this is the plot. This Pierpoint is basically trading desk, a firm very big that needs capital injection because it's going to go bankrupt. This is a finance series, great series. It has a lot of weird moments. Each episode trying to have one type of sex scene that might be odd to some people. For sure, there's a lot of odd on the previous episodes scenes. But if you actually want to see the finance side of it, which is what I'm interested in the most, amazing show for this. It's so impeccable, the details when it comes to the finance, the instruments they talk about, the trading, the actual trading that takes place on episodes. And this type of episode is about trying to save Pierpoint entirely from a collapse. The share price is going down massively. It closes at $35. It was previously at $45, and they need in a couple hours capital injection. So they first go to the government, the U.S. Secretary. They make like this, of course, since Janet Yellen, I think that's how you pronounce her name, but of course I just know her as the old lady, as somebody who actually trades. I'm aware of who the secretary is, Secretary of the Treasury. But Janet Yellen is on this series. They try to make somebody that looks a lot like her. She actually does look like the real person. If you look at the actress for this, that's making an appearance as her on this series, right here on this episode, and look at the real one, they look basically the same. And she's in the office of the U.S. Treasury, but she's actually exercising as she takes a call, which is hilarious to me. Like, they're trying to paint her as somebody who's just doing exercise while she's working at basically the biggest deal when it comes to the U.S. government and treasury bonds, but she's actually doing exercises at the office. That's like such a weird thing to see, but it was very funny in my opinion. I thought it was a great way to put it. Like, are they even doing actual work here or not? Or she's just issuing treasury bonds whenever she has, when she's not actually doing anything for the economy. So I think it's interesting how Industry, this series, tries to point out what people might be doing or not. Try to make like a mockery, if you want to say that, or comedy out of it. They're not as important as you think they are to what's actually happening in the economy. They just do it to do it. So Pierpoint is going to collapse. They're all in the meeting. Eric goes up. Eric is the trader, that one of the main characters for the series, and he goes up with Bill. First thing, they call the U.S. Treasury. She basically ignores them. There's this guy who's in the main of the meeting. I don't even remember him because they rarely show him on this series. I don't think I've even seen him before this episode, but they make him to be the big yellow who's actually reuniting everybody from Pierpoint that is big to try to save the company. So he's managing it. Of course, we know Bill. He's one of the important people that basically is the boss of Eric and everybody else in the series when they're on Pierpoint. Because, of course, Harper left Pierpoint. I'm not including the people that left. What happens? Janet Yellen, a.k.a. Janet Yellen, of course. They don't actually say her name. She says, I'm not going to try to save you right now. This is an election year. It's going to look weird putting money to somebody that has done this much risk when it comes to what they bought. Of course, we know the whole situation with the companies that Pierpoint bought, they're failing massively. And you can't refinance this debt that has matured because it's basically trash. And that's the whole idea of shorting this. The way that Harper, one of the main characters, is currently, while all of this is happening, while the meeting is happening, Harper's up like $300,000 on this trade. Insane, right? You even see it on her desk. She's trading, and she's one part of the episode she starts smoking because she's stressing out if she should sell or not. Crazy point. I like the actual trading aspect. That's why, because you see the trades and what they're actually doing. But the government says, nah, it's election year. We don't care about you like that. And Pierpoint tries to use the too big to fail narrative. We're important for the economy and all of that. And Janet Yellen is like, I'm not hearing that today. Because of 2008, they mentioned the 2008 crisis. It's why we should stop doing government bailouts. Because it affects, and it wasn't the right idea. But Pierpoint was trying to say, you did it in 2008, so help us now, because we're too big to fail. Janet Yellen was like, nah, I remember when I was in 2008. And they even reference how she was actually head of the Federal Reserve. So they don't mention her by name, but they actually do accurately what she was in real life doing. Janet Yellen back then in 2008. She was the head of the Federal Reserve. She wasn't the Secretary of U.S. Treasury. Now she is. So I noted that. They made her seem like the real person and even accurately placed her when she was in 2008, what she was doing. So she ignores them. That was hilarious while she's doing exercises on like that jogging exercise that you stand still like a troll is what you call it. I'm not sure, but that was funny. One of the best parts of the episode, in my opinion. I was just laughing at seeing her like that. And she's just doing exercises and she's like, I don't care at all about you, Pierpoint. If you collapse, you collapse. I'm not injecting capital in an election year for you. So what happens after that? They try to go to Barclays, and the main person on the reunion that actually made them buy in the first place, all these worthless companies now, if you want to call them worthless, that got them in this debt on their balance sheet, that messed the whole system for Pierpoint up, because now they can't refinance this. It's not worth it, and they're going to go bankrupt, basically, if they don't find capital. It's because of this person who's suggesting Barclays to buy them up now. But of course, Bill, he doesn't like the idea because Barclays isn't going to keep the name of Pierpoint. And Bill is very, very emphatic about the 150 years of history of Pierpoint. He tries to get Eric to help him on that, and Eric is helping him at the start, but he's trying to read the room. So the Barclays guy actually comes. That's when Richie, he's trying to make a sense of all of this because nobody important is in the celebration, the 150th celebration of Pierpoint. They're actually up in a meeting and it's like something's up. So what's actually happened? Nobody's down celebrating. It's not a good time. So Rishi, watch this series if you haven't. This is a recap for those who have. Rishi, of course, is another trader that is great at what he does. If you haven't seen the other episodes, he nearly loses everything, but he's great at what he does. Let's just say that he's good at trading. That episode was insane when he bet everything and nearly loses it all, but somehow finds a way to save himself. But going back to this one, Rishi then calls Harper, and he's like, "I want to work for you. I could get you exclusive details at when to sell your short. The Barclay guy is coming." And he seems like he's going to want to buy this. He's going to want to buy stock. So the price is going to spike. So your short is going to get stopped. So take profit now. This is the peak for take profit. And you definitely should consider doing it because it's going to be actually good. So what happens? She's thinking about it. She's like, okay, if you actually tell me with details, I'll let you know. So he calls when the Barclays guy's about to go up to the meeting. She says, should I take profit or not? Mind you, she doesn't because Petra tells her not to. Crazy. So Petra tells her, nah, you got to have balls. You got to hold it. This is going to be an inevitable trade, a massive win, bigger than 300K. We're going to win millions. Mind you, they invested how many? 500 million, I think it was, from the fund, half of the fund on this trade. So that's what happens. Insane. But guess what? Harper then listens to Petra. She's like, okay, we're not going to do the trade. We're not going to take profit. That's what I interpreted. They never showed she took profit. They leave the trading desk. She even had somebody go to the room. I think it was like the butler or something. And she was, in bed with him. But she was actually just paying attention to the trading while she's talking to Rishi too. Like a whole disaster type of shit right there. Like it's all over the place, right? But she's calm while everything's happening. Not afterwards. When she's not aware of what she should do, she starts smoking and she starts having a bit of stress because she's scared that they're going to realize that they could have used this illegally, because she did get insider information while she was inside of Pierpoint about that happening. So she's trying to make it look like her trades weren't so specific because they could maybe see some cameras of her entering the bathroom and finding out details before she took the trade. She's paranoid. I don't think that's even realistic. So she tells Petra, but Petra gets even more paranoid than her about it. So in the end, all of that, just to say she didn't even take profit. She's still shorting it from what it seems. We'll find out next episode. But that's what I took from it. So what happens then? The whole Yasmine and Robert, by the way, I've been saying her name a bit wrong because for some reason, my pronunciation, I say Yasmine and it's not like that. It's Jasmine. That's the correct way. So she's with Robert. Robert apparently is going to leave where they live and he's trying to go to the States, try to help this Little Labs company that has to do with hallucinogenics. Maybe it's because of that time he spent with Henry back then with the ayahuasca and how he got like high and all that. But either way, he tries to help this new company because he feels like it's going to be better for him doing something that he actually cares about. They might take him more seriously. And Yasmine follows him after kind of not wanting to. For some reason, Yasmine is always like considering and reconsidering what she wants to do with any other guy. It's like all over the place with Yasmine, especially with what happened to her father. This is a time for her to just go somewhere else. And Robert is like, listen, come with me. It's going to be a good time. You're going to forget about everything. Think about something else. Stop being paranoid. She's thinking there's like paparazzis outside and there's literally nobody there. So she's like, sorry, I'm just paranoid. She goes with him. They're like two opposite sides of the spectrum because Robert is like this guy that doesn't have a lot of money. He's trying to find himself. Yasmine comes from a father that has a lot of money, so he likes enjoying the simple things in life, and she's trying to enjoy simple things in life, but she's been a bit bougie, if you want to say that, like fancy and all that. So when Robert just takes her to this place and he like thinks the perfect idea of a date is just buying one croissant. It looked like a croissant, I think, but he's called it something else. It was just like a piece of bread for both of them, and she's like, what the fuck is that? He's like, this is the perfect night and all that. For some reason, they still like each other, but Yasmine kind of restrains herself in a sense of not an actual restraint, but like she tries to twist it into a game always, and it even makes Robert uncomfortable. He's like, everything doesn't have to be a game. Stop it. We don't got to play like this, because she tries to play like this role of, are you going to fuck me or not, and all that. Unnecessary, right? So I'm glad Robert finally said, like, stop playing games. They sit down, trying to have fun, and she's like, I'm trying to figure out why I do this with every guy. Like, I try to lead into the sex, but in a weird way. You could tell because with Henry, it was some weird stuff where he started having weird fetishes and all that, and with the other guys, it was all weird, right? But Robert needs to, like, just sit down and realize, listen, if I want to fuck you, I'll fuck you. Like, if I want to have sex with you. He's just, like, so innocent at some points where he backtracks and he never feels like he's good enough for Yasmine, which is weird because you've seen how Yasmine is at a low. Why do you think you're not good enough? I don't understand. It's just awkward. But I still like this whole dynamic. I thought it was a good character development between these two because I like them as characters. So this was interesting for me in the story. Either way, seems like Robert's going to leave. I don't know if they'll keep him for season 4 because apparently he's going to be venture capitalist for the company and go to the States and try to help them gain money because they lost the funding. So the company might hire him or might not. I don't know what they're going to do with the character. Maybe they keep him to actually go with Yasmine and finally connect. Because then what is Yasmine going to do if she's not working? She's going to just be in the trading desk. Feels like she's more important in the role of like the drama, not actually as a trader. My opinion. They have her more for the drama. Harper feels like more for the trading part of the show. So that's what happens there. Going back to the finance side, Mitsubishi is about to get the deal. Bill is finally going to get the deal. What happens? Good question. Eric finally finds out that the whole finance thing, there's one mistake on the papers for this deal and for what's happening with Mitsubishi. He keeps looking at the PE ratio, I think, but they don't really tell you what it is. It's like he just says when they actually get into the table, he says, apologies for the mistake in page 12. I think he said page 12. What happens though is actually before they sit down, he actually goes to the, hold up, my battery is gonna die. So what I was saying is that Eric realizes that the P ratio does a mistake on a page before he sits down with the meeting for Mitsubishi with Bill and everybody else, because the Barclays deal just goes to shit. He decides, this is too much of a risky thing. They didn't give me the okay. And the person who actually gave the Barclay deal, which put them all in the mess, she's a woman that's on Pierpoint. She's the person basically responsible for the whole ESG trade and idea, which is going to get them bankrupt. She now looks like a mess because the Barclays deal didn't actually pan out. So she's on a hot seat. But now Bill looks like a genius with the Mitsubishi deal. So what happens? Eric actually calls somebody right before the meeting is going to take place. And he says, he said something about, what affiliations did you say you have, like with when you came to Pierpoint? Like, why did you get the job? And that's when I remember, and I looked up in a review of this episode, that it was this new trader that came to the desk. He was, if I'm not mistaken, he was Arab or something in relationship with Egypt, something like that. So what happens? They don't actually tell you in the episode by this point. So I'm like, what is even happening? I found out in hindsight. He's talking about what relationship you have with Pierpoint that you actually went into my desk to work. When he sits down and he says the whole thing of apologies for the mistake, he's talking to Mitsubishi. Bill looks like a genius. He's about to close the deal. Apologies for the mistake on page 12. So Bill starts looking and he's like, did I make a mistake? And Eric then talks to him in a condescending way. Like, yeah, we talked about this in the bathroom, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. We're going to close this. So Bill starts panicking because he thinks the whole tumor thing about the cancer is like messing with his function to work. Maybe he forgot this because of the cancer and the tumor on his brain or wherever it is. I think it's in the head. So he's like, there's no way. And he starts thinking, did I really mess this all up right there? Specific detail, because I'm not capable to work as I used to. So he actually ends up exposing the fact on the meeting that he has cancer and that he's having issues with his health. So now it looks weird because he just maintains that instead of focusing on a deal with Mitsubishi. And what happens? Bill just starts panicking and they tell him, we're going to have to take a 5-minute break. So the Mitsubishi deal does not get closed because Bill, they send him to go home. They tell him, get some rest, come back later. And that was all Eric's plan. So as Bill is about to go through the elevator, Eric is like, man, he said something slick. Paraphrase it, but I don't remember what he said exactly, because he said something about, you need this, or this was the whole point, or something like that. So when Bill actually turns back to see him, he's like, you set me up or something. He didn't say set me up. He said something better. But he's like, you set me up. And so it just closes like that as he actually realizes, damn, I thought this was my friend Eric. I'm trying to tell him we're going to get to the top if this closes with Mitsubishi. And now Eric played me. And he's going back to the meeting as one of the big guys instead of a trader, because he had the trading mindset of what can work and what cannot. So he plays Eric like a trader would when he's trading stocks or whatever you want to trade. And then he actually finds new people because the Mitsubishi deal doesn't look as good now. They didn't close it. So he finds new people and he tells the desk, meet my friends. And then you see that it was a trader that had connections with Egypt because of the family. And now they're interested in buying Pierpoint with the name maintaining. So Eric took the same plan from Bill, but just a different counterpart, the Egyptian people, the royal family of Egypt, and they're going to buy Pierpoint. That's how it finished off. And now Eric tells the reunion people, I don't know if you want to use the word committee. I don't think it's the right word. So let's just say reunion people. Let's just say like that either way. Whatever it is, the right term. So now the people from Pierpoint are like, so should we fire Bill? Is it going to look wrong because he has cancer, but he's not able to do the job well? They're believing the whole thing about him doing it wrong because of his cancer, because Bill believes it, but he got played by Eric. And Eric is such a slick person. He's like, I think it's better that he really does take rest. He looked a bit off because he's trying to get him basically to lose his position and Eric be at the top. And one of the guys says something about, I feel bad for Bill. Kind of morally, it doesn't seem well to fire somebody because they're sick severely. But then they're like, but if it is what it is, it is what it is. They like switch up very fast and they're like, if we have to fire him, we'll fire him. And it ends right there with Eric looking like a genius, bringing the Egypt royal family. Pierpoint might get saved. Harper still hasn't sold anything. Richie, I don't even know what he's going to do. He leaves as he sees that they didn't even sell his positions. I don't know. That's the only thing I didn't understand. Why didn't he just sell his positions? What was he looking for the people to sell it for him? That other guy that's near his desk and the girl, I keep forgetting her name, but she's the young woman that found out about this all as she heard it. She was the one talking about it in the bathroom when Harper heard it. It was from her. Forget her name, but either way, Richie didn't sell anything, so he's stuck. And he's in debt too, if he didn't pay his debt. Not sure if he did or not. He had like $180,000 in debt and credit cards. Crazy. You know, the interest is high, so it's going to keep going up. Whatever happens there, interesting with Richie. If he actually saves himself from debt, what is he going to do? Is he going to work with Harper? I don't know. It seems the way he was leaving Pierpoint suggested he's going to work with Harper. And Harper said she might work with him. She might bring him to the team for her new firm, whatever you will call it. I don't even know if it has any. Petra still looks like the leader of that team more than Harper. Harper looks more like an employee, but with the ideas. And Eric seems to be at the top now. I don't know what's going to happen with Bill as a character. Yasmine and Rob, they're more like the love side, if you want to call it, of this whole drama thing. That's about it, because the actors kind of just, we haven't had much more from other actors on these episodes. Seemed like earlier on the season we had more of a lot of the traders. I don't even remember what happened to the other traders that were on the portrait of the main industry cast. It's centered more on Yasmine, Rob, and Harper, and Petra, and Eric. Well, let's see what happens either way. Let me know if you enjoyed this. I'm out. Pretty long review, but hey, I had to talk about this.